Welcome to this session. This is the Man is Not a Financial Plan. We're really excited to have all of you here today and excited to have this event going on. This is something that I'm very excited and passionate about, and I've been helping Dr. Madsen get this planned for several months, and I'm just thrilled to have this actually happening. And I'll be honest, terrified and thrilled. So bear with us as we go through this tonight. My name is Janice Bullock. It's the first one on the list there. I'm a CPA with Squire. We're one of the sponsors of the event. And I have two other CPAs from my firm here with me. They're going to be speaking. We have Cindy Pashuk and Sheila Saka. And then we also have an attorney here with us tonight, Genevieve Gribble. And you're going to hear a little bit from each of us. Each of us have our own story, and we want to share that with you and then give you some things to think about and take home with you. We did put handouts underneath the seats. If you don't have one, there should be handouts at the end of every row under the seats. If you don't have one, wave your hand around and we'll have someone bring you some, but we should have enough for everyone in the room. I'm going to start a little bit with my story. I didn't think you'd be able to see this, so I copied it and put it up here. This is a packet that I went to in 9th grade. I went to career counseling or education counseling that you go to where you're planning what you're going to do in high school. And I was with my mom, who's actually here today, and the high school or the 9th grade counselor. And she gave us this packet, and it has a whole bunch of information on careers and different education, but it had this paper on the front of it. And for some reason, as a 9th grader, this hit me very hard. I don't know how many of you read the class description, but the class description was based on this quote here. And it just says, unless you can promise your daughter that she will marry, that her husband will earn enough money to support her, that he will never leave her, or that she will never leave him, or that he will never die, then you must tell her that she must be able to support herself. As a 9th grader, that thought had never crossed my mind. My mom stayed at home for the most part. She started working a little bit as we got into junior high and high school, but it wasn't to support the family at all, and I just assumed that I would go down that same path. But for some reason, that stuck with me, and as you can tell, I have carried that with me. I've kept that with me. I kept it with me through college. I keep it with me at work, and when I'm meeting with young women, I pull it out and show it to them all the time. I took a little bit of grief from a group online that I'm with about this quote specifically and saying, well, it still sounds like it's plan B. What I want to say today is we really want to have each person here feel responsible for your own finances, no matter what. Even if you could guarantee this, we still want you to feel responsible for your own finances. So that is our goal tonight, is to help inspire you to keep yourself informed, to be prepared, and to stay involved. We're going to talk about things that have happened, that we've seen happen to other people, that have happened to ourselves. In some cases, these always haven't been the best things. We don't want people to walk away saying, oh my goodness, bad things are going to happen. We want you to walk away. We want this to stay positive, but we want you to really walk away inspired for these things specifically, keeping informed, being prepared, and staying involved, so that no matter what happens, you have control and financial responsibility in your life. Gail Miller was fantastic, helping each of us understand why we need to be involved in our own finances. So why should I care? Here's some of these facts. Again, I don't want you to walk away depressed tonight, but women tend to be less informed than men about ways to secure their financial futures. As a CPA, I will tell you that 9 out of 10 times, I have not met the wives of my clients. They just don't come in. I don't know why. I really don't believe that it's the men don't let them. They just are relying on their husbands to take care of those financial futures. So get yourself informed. Women earn on average 76 cents for every dollar that men earn, resulting in lower Social Security and pension benefits, and obviously immediate pay. And in Utah, we're always in the top or the bottom 10 in that number. 90% of women will have sole responsibility for their assets at some point in their lives. This is often the result of a death or a divorce. That kind of leads into the next one. Most women live longer than men, which requires them to make their money last longer. At age 65, women have an average life expectancy of 20 years compared to 17 for men. From age 65 on, women are more than twice as likely as men to be widowed, divorced, separated, or never married. 2/3 of all women over age 65 have no pension other than Social Security. And the poverty rate of elderly women is twice that of elderly men. And the one that really gets me is that 80% of women living in poverty were not that way before they lost their husband. So we need to be prepared so that no matter what happens, we're not going to end up in that poverty level. Okay, so what is a financial plan? When I think of a financial plan, I tend to think of a budget. So I don't know how many of you came in tonight thinking you're going to spend a whole bunch of time on budgeting. In truth, the very comprehensive definition up there is the evaluation of someone's current and financial future state by using currently known variables to predict future cash flows. Okay, so what does that mumbo jumbo mean? It means all variables. This is more than just a budget. This is more than just what you're bringing in. What are all the variables in your life? We're going to talk tonight about a lot of different things: the legal aspects of your financial plan, insurance, your education, your personal skill set. So each one of these topics, we could spend an hour or even 10 hours on. What we're going to try to give you tonight is a high-level overview of all of the different things that you want to care about. That's part of the reason that you should have about 5 pages of handouts in front of you. We want to give you something you can take home. We've listed a lot of websites that each of us have found personally helpful in these things, so you can go home and follow that. One of the websites that I've listed on there is one of my Pinterest boards where I've been posting different pins related to women and finances, so you can go find that, and I'm always updating that as I find current things out there. But it's not just budgeting, and it's a comprehensive look at anything that will affect your financial future, and that's what we're going to do. Another thing I want to mention, because we'll start passing it around, as the 4 of us started talking, we realized we could spend a lot of time and go into detail on these things. We would love to still do that with you, and we're going to pass around a thing where you can sign up, and we're going to offer some free legal and financial classes that we'll be doing over the upcoming months. And if you'd be interested in attending those, just give us your name and email address. And as soon as we get those schedules, we'll let you know what those are. Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to Genevieve, and she's going to go over your legal considerations.
Thank you, Janice. I'm very pleased to be here. Let me get my papers. I'm just a little bit of background about me to start. So I am going to turn 43 next week. And I grew up in Provo, Utah. I was born at Utah Valley Regional Medical Center. And I am single, and I have never been married. And from the time I was a little girl, my dream has always been to get married and have at least a dozen children. I felt like, a dozen was a good start. I'm the second of 10, and I always wanted to outdo my mom. Well, obviously that has not happened. I have no children. And it's funny because that has continued to be my dream. I still want to get married and have a dozen kids, and I think that would be wonderful. It might not be very likely right now, but I think it's exciting to have dreams. And I think that even if your life doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, you as a person have a lot to offer. And that's something that I have learned throughout my life. Just a little bit about my childhood. I got my first job when I was 8 years old. Kind of my real first job. I babysat when I was 5, but it was the downstairs neighbor, little baby David. It was no big deal. But I had a newspaper out when I was 8. And like I said, I am the second of 10 children. My father is a school teacher in Utah. So you can imagine, and my mom is a stay-at-home mom, we didn't have very much money. And so we got this newspaper out, and it was my older sister, who's a year older than I am, and my twin sister. We divided it 3 ways. And I still remember my first paycheck. We got there must have been $16.50 because we each got $5.50. And we got to walk downtown and buy some clothes. And it was so exciting. If you can imagine, I'm an 8-year-old, and I went and I bought clothes with my own money. And from that point on, my parents never bought me clothes. And in fact, I paid for my own bike, and I paid for my braces, and I paid for my contacts, and I just went on working. And I love to work. My dad would always tell us stories about, this guy in his small town who had to work, and he had to do a good job at working. So when he didn't have a job, he would go out and he would clear these big, huge town ditches. And he'd do it for free, and he would do an amazing job. And I just ate that story up. I mean, I was a fabulous news carrier. My papers were delivered on time. They were dry. I mean, I loved it. I don't know if I just have kind of an eager beaver kind of personality, but doing great things, with work was amazing to me. I love to do it. And it's a good thing because I've always had to work and provide for myself. Now, with my education, I was not really keen on getting an education because I just really wanted to graduate from high school, get married, and have 12 kids, And while I was waiting for that to happen, my parents were like, well, yeah, you're going to BYU. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll go do that. And I had a wonderful time. My dad was actually the biggest supporter of education. My mom's educated, but my dad is just like, go to law school, go to law school. I mean, he must have told me 20 times to go to law school before I finally went to law school. I mean, he just was really like, you could do this, And I feel like, I hope that all of you have people in your lives who are strong supporters of you just going out and doing things that might seem hard, because it is awesome to have cheerleaders. And if you don't have a cheerleader in your life, you're gonna find some tonight. And we are totally willing to be your cheerleaders. Please sign up for these classes, and we'll tell you, you can do anything. And like Gail was saying, it's not an or, it's an and. It's going out, having dreams, and doing things, Okay, so I've got to get on, because I'm so bad at this, you guys. I could talk forever. I'm a really talky girl. Okay, so I was with this group of singles last week, these mid-singles, and they're, they didn't know me very well, and I told them, I said, you know what? I love my job. I get to serve people every day. That's all I do all day long. I serve people. And they were like, wow, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a lawyer. I mean, come on, And they were like, what? They thought I was a nurse or a doctor or, you know what I mean? I don't know, researching, I don't know, cancer stuff, to provide a cure. No, I'm an attorney. And you know what? I feel as an attorney that it's a high and noble calling, because I help people. I help people who they don't have a voice. They can't speak for themselves. And I will speak for them. And I protect people, and I defend people, and I give a helping hand to people who are just down and out. And so I love my job. And something that I would encourage you to do is do something you love, something that you can feel just like, I love to do this. Whether it makes a lot of money or not, do something that you love, that you are just, happy to go to work in the morning. So the reason why I got involved in estate planning, how it started for me was, I have a cousin who married a woman named Milka. And Milka's this amazing, she is an amazing woman. And when my cousin was 29, they had 4 little children, and he suddenly died. And Milka was left with, there was no plan in place, nothing. They owned a business, but it was in his name. There was, it was a huge mess, and I'd never had anything to do with estate planning, but I went down to their small town where they lived, and I was able to work with an attorney, and we were able to work things out for her so that she had a good situation for her and the kids, and we were able to get insurance, to pay out and different things so that she had some, she had something there between, poverty and her, and her and the kids. And we were able to sell the business and do some different things. And I realized how beneficial it is for people to have their estate planning done. Before I'd been like, hey, that's what people do when they're 65. If you are not 65, you do not see an estate planning attorney. Why would you, It's like, well, yeah, there are many reasons to do estate planning. Now, I have a lot of slides, and I have a lot of scenarios, and we're not going to get through all of them. But this is when people come into my office, this is what they say. I just need a simple will. That is what everybody thinks they need. And sometimes it's actually true. But a lot of times, it's not, okay? So one thing I want to tell you about, because this is a situation that often comes up around here, so there are four basic documents in estate planning. Now, there are lots of documents, and there are lots of things that we do as estate planning attorneys, but there are 4 documents that you should know about. Okay, number 1 is you should know what a power of attorney is, okay? Number 2, you should be very familiar with healthcare documents. Number 3, a will. You need to know what a will is. And number 4, a trust. And there are lots of different kinds of each one of these. And there are complicated versions, and there are simple versions, and revocable and non-revocable, and all sorts of things. But if you have a working knowledge, just a simple working knowledge of these 4 documents, then you are in a pretty good position. Okay, so let's say that, here's a scenario that is really common around here. We have a young person, they're 18, and maybe they're either going on a mission or they're going on a study abroad. And we would say, okay, this person's single, they have no assets, okay? I mean, just no kids, no money, nothing. So most people would say, hey, they don't even just need a simple will. They need nothing. They're fine. But let's say that, they go, like we had a client whose son went on a mission to Russia, and his identity was stolen while he was gone. And they did not have a power of attorney in place, so they had no way to, with ease and convenience, to deal with the big mess, okay? So that's something that people, they just don't think about. But if you are 18, you should have a power of attorney and healthcare documents in place. So let's say that, you're a young woman, 18, you go off on a study abroad, and you get hit by a car, and you're in a coma. And you don't have any healthcare documents in place. So you don't have somebody who can make decisions for you if you are incapacitated. And that creates a big problem. So these are just some little things to consider that, we're talking about 18-year-olds. You know what I mean? They're not 65, but still, they have estate planning needs. Everybody does. Okay, so let's go on. Okay, so here are some people who they are married and they have a house, and really a simple will about do it. Oh my word, I only have 5 minutes. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna fly through this. You're gonna know everything. Just kidding. We're gonna send around the little thing. Sign up. I'll give you more information. But anyway, so these people are people who would fit into a simple will situation, but they're not very interesting to us. We're gonna go to some other scenarios. Okay, whoa, that's interesting. Okay, babies just appeared. Okay, so once this happens, you want to have a say. If you and your spouse were to suddenly die, you want to have a say in who's going to be the guardian of your children. So even if you didn't own a house, you want to have some estate planning done so that just random person can't apply to the court to be a guardian of your children. Okay, so that makes a difference right there. Okay, then if you owned other property, you definitely need a trust. That ratchets up your thing. I hope you all do. I hope everyone here has many houses. Okay, so now this little ballerina, this is a special needs child. Now if you have a special needs child, you need an estate plan. Okay, you need something in place, a care plan. You need something that will protect this child, a spendthrift trust or a special needs trust, so that this child can be taken care of after you're gone. There are some things that can happen if you get divorced that would be very uncomfortable for you. For example, and sorry to talk about just single parents and all of these, but seriously, come to our classes because you'll learn a lot more. So let's say that, that you get divorced and you don't have anything in place, and your husband was a cat and a bounder, okay? And he was the kind of person that nobody would put, the care of a child, nobody would give him the care of a child. And you fought really hard and you got custody of your kids, and then you didn't do any financial planning, you didn't do any estate planning, and then you died. The court is going to give your kids to him, okay? Because that is where the natural parent trumps, okay? So you need to have a plan in place that says, this is who I nominate as a guardian of my child, and this is why, and gives all the outlines. Okay. Now there are a lot of things that can happen that are just crazy. That and I know I have to end. Dang it, I love to talk, but anyway. So when you do estate planning, consider these things. Number 1, You want to protect your kids if you have kids. You want to protect your assets. And you want things to go where you want them to go. Okay, there are intestate laws, okay? So the courts will decide where your money and your assets will go if you don't make that decision beforehand. But it's very unlikely that it's gonna go, where you would like it to go, okay? Anyway, how many more minutes do I have? I'm 1.5. Okay, you guys, darn it. Okay, so, I just love this, but okay, you guys, just all I have to say is get your estate planning done. Come to the classes, find out about those 4 documents, get really, really smart about it. And one of the things that we've seen at our firm is that a lot of times the wife or the woman is the moving force behind getting this done. Because a lot of times the husband is just like, oh, we don't need to do it. Oh, things are fine. You know what? Don't think that. You just keep pushing and you get the information and you get it done because it protects you and it protects your children and it makes it so that what you want to have happen when you die happens, okay? And you don't have the crazy things and fights and all that stuff, okay? Well, you guys, I've enjoyed talking to you and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Hello, my name is Sheila, and I'm also with Squire, and I am a CPA. But I want to share my story with you. I've only been a CPA for 1 year, and obviously I am no young spring chicken. So how did that happen? Actually, I wanted to share something with you that not very many people know about me. About 8 years ago, I lost 200 pounds. So it was kind of a miracle. It happened in 1 day. I know. It was the day my ex-husband moved out of my house. So, no, kidding aside, it was actually a really sad day. It was very unexpected. I remember that day I went up to my closet and saw his things gone. And it was so sad, it was so empty. But then I looked again and thought, look at all this room. Anyway, like Janice said, it's kind of, all of us have a story today, and it can be depressing, so I was trying to lighten it up a little bit. It was actually very sad and very unexpected. I was totally unprepared. My plan A was to get married, and I got married kind of young, and had 5 kids. I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was my plan A. My problem was I had no plan B. And so when the divorce happened, I was devastated because I had an associate's degree, and in general ed, no less. So there wasn't a lot I could do to make money to support myself and my 5 kids. We'd been married for 14 years. My oldest was she just turned 14, and my youngest was newborn. And I didn't know what to do. I was absolutely scared to death. What job could I get with 5 kids? How could I pay daycare, making minimum wage for those 5 kids? Super scary. One thing I was really glad about was I had a savings account. It was kind of small, but I ended up needing it, and it gave me a lot of comfort to know that I had that little bit of money. So that's one thing I would highly recommend, is make sure you've got a savings account, at least 3 months of your wages, if not more, just for that comfort and security if anything happens. Another thing that was really positive for me was I always did the family finances. So I knew our bank accounts. I had access to all our online accounts. I knew what our retirement was. I knew what our life insurance was. I can't imagine how much harder things would have been had I not had those things in place and not had that knowledge. So make sure you know what's there. Don't depend on someone else to know everything and you know nothing. Make sure you know what you have and you have access to it. One thing I didn't have, I wish I would have, and I did later, is establish credit in my own name. I had credit with my ex-husband, but not by myself. And so right after the divorce, I got my own credit card and started slowly building my credit up. I didn't have any money at the time, so I couldn't have made a large purchase and needed credit, but had I needed it, I wouldn't have had it. So what I did was, because I had all these little kids, I ended up getting a job at a daycare center, taking care of newborn babies up to 2 and 3 years old, because then I could have my kids with me, and I didn't have to pay the daycare expenses, and that worked really well for a while. It was a few months after I started working that my ex-husband lost his job, and I didn't have child support anymore. So now, here I am, 5 kids, single, making barely minimum wage, and no child support. That was a super hard time for us, and we ended up having to ask for family help. We had friends help, and I actually went on food stamps. I was on food stamps for about a year. And it was at that time that I made a critical decision for me that I never, ever wanted to be dependent on other people again. I never wanted to have that helpless, vulnerable feeling that I couldn't take care of myself. So I decided that in order to take care of myself better, I needed a better job. In order to get a better job, I needed education. And so that's what I want to focus on today is education. I'm super passionate about education, especially education for women. This is so important because of where I've been and lots of other reasons. So I went back to school, obviously in accounting. It took me 4.5 years, 3.5 to get my bachelor's, another year to get my master's, and then another year after that to get my CPA license, which I just barely got last September. So huge accomplishment, thank you. Thank you. I was truly trying hard to say that without crying, and I did it. So you can see why I'm super passionate about education. Education can be our plan B, but it can also be our plan A, depending on where you're at in your life. But having the financial need like I had isn't the only reason to get your education. There are lots of other reasons. Maybe you have your education, but you feel like you're underemployed. You're not in the career that you want to have, or you just want more knowledge and more skills. These are all good reasons to go and get more education. So I want to talk about some reasons why maybe we don't go back to school, or some things that are scary or big decisions that we need to make when we think about going back to school. The very first thing, probably the biggest thing for me, was the cost. How in the world am I going to pay for going to school when I can barely make ends meet? Fortunately, there's a lot of financial help available. Tons and tons of scholarship money goes unused every year because people just don't make the effort or don't know to apply for it. So doing your homework and figuring out where you can get financial help is super beneficial and worth the time. The very first place to start is with your FAFSA. That is your free application for federal student aid. That's the first start for anyone, even if you feel like you have enough money or maybe just need a little bit of extra help. FAFSA is your link to getting financial loans and grants. And it's a free application. You go online. It's FAFSA.gov. That's included in your handout today if you forget the website. There's also, I think, a table set up today if you need more information about that. There are other websites that look like FAFSA that will charge you a fee, so make sure you get the free one. It shouldn't cost you any money to fill that out. Most other scholarships require you to do a FAFSA first before they will let you apply for that scholarship. The other thing with FAFSA is to do it very early. It's a first-come, first-served basis. Get it done early in the year as soon as your taxes are done, so those dollars don't go away before you can get to them. The second best place to look for financial help is scholarships. There's tons and tons available. Whatever school you choose will have some kind of a financial aid office that you can go talk to, and they will help you, link you to scholarships that you qualify for. I did not pay 1 penny of my bachelor's degree. I got it all funded through FAFSA and scholarships. One scholarship I got, I didn't apply for. I saw it and didn't apply for it because I didn't think I qualified for it. But because I was working with the financial aid office and they were familiar with my situation, nobody else in the school had applied for that scholarship. And so they wrote me a letter and told me about it and said, go ahead and apply. And I did, and I got it because I was the only applicant. So It helped me. It was a 2-year scholarship and helped me get through the rest of my bachelor's degree. So you never know what you can get. It's worth a lot of time and effort. Most scholarships require an essay, and it's worth spending a lot of time in the essay because that's what sets you apart from the other applicants. The very last place to look would be other websites. There's lots available online. These probably aren't as profitable just because there's lots of other people applying. It's not just the school you're going to, it's everybody else. So they're very competitive, and I don't have very much experience with that, so I can't tell you a lot about it. The next huge consideration I had, number 2, was my huge gap in education. It had been 12 years since I had been to school, and I was scared to death, like going to school with kids that were 15 years younger than me, and here I'm this mom and hadn't had education. I thought my brain was mushy and I couldn't learn anymore. And I quickly learned that that wasn't true. It's like a bike, you get back on and you ride again. I would definitely recommend starting slow. I took a couple basic classes. One was a computer skills class just to get my basic skills back up again. Another one was an online economics class that I could take and do with my kids. I never thought I could do it. I honestly never thought I could do it because it had been so long and I was so busy, but it happened. The third consideration is what degree to choose, and I really appreciate Dr. Madsen's comments earlier when she talked. She echoed exactly what I wanted to say about the degree to choose. Not all degrees are created equally. I think there's 2 considerations. One is your interest, but 2 is the money. You have to think about both, not just find something that you love to do, that you've always wanted to do. That's great, but will it get you the job at the end, and will that job pay you the money that you need? A fabulous website you can check out is called payscale.com, and I've included that in your handout as well. It has lots of information about salaries and degrees, and one thing you can do is run a report in there that will link careers, and it will rank them by the salary, starting salary, and then ongoing salary. So if you're thinking about a degree, you can go see what you might expect to be paid when you're done. So make sure you give it a lot of thought on what degree to choose. Also, the schools aren't created equal either. Make sure you pick a reputable school. If you get something that's online that's cheap and quick, chances are it might not be reputable, and employers do consider that. They do look at that. The 5th consideration is time for studying. If you're not a traditional student, you're older like I was, if you've got kids, you're working, time for study is a huge deal. And honestly, I don't know if I have a lot of answers there. It's consuming, it does take a lot of time. But I would suggest looking for spare minutes everywhere you can. My kids and I used to sit and do homework together. We'd sit at the kitchen table. They would do theirs, I would do mine. When they were in the bath time playing, I would sit and study. While I was waiting at carpool, I would sit and study. You know, every spare minute you can find, you'll find that you have time that you didn't know you had. So I learned I could ask for help. My family helped, my neighbors helped. I also learned to let things go. Used to clean my house once a week, I don't anymore. And my kids grew up just fine, they're healthy. We made it. And also, really important to balance your time. It can be consumable and you can get burned out, but if you balance your time and make sure you have you time, then that's not likely to take you over. Just real briefly, I want to talk about the other benefits to obtaining a degree. A couple of them I've talked about already. Number 1, personal growth and self-esteem. For me, this was huge. The divorce was devastating on my self-esteem. I felt this big. And going to school helped me. You know, I studied and I worked really hard. And when I'd get that A on the test, you know, I felt amazing. Like, I can do this. I can really do this. And it helped me give confidence slowly to where I felt like, you know, maybe I can go into accounting. That's something I never would have thought of before. But slowly my confidence built and I thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And then I thought, okay, maybe, just maybe I could do a master's degree. Again, something I never would have thought of before. But my confidence built and I decided to take it on. learning can stimulate your mind. It feels pretty good to know things that you didn't know before. Feels great to learn, to know more about the world that you're in and the things around you. It's really good. We already talked about starting a new career and becoming financially independent. Job security. So if you already have a job and you already have your education, getting a little bit more, taking a few extra classes here and there can help you be more secure, can give you that competitive advantage against other people to keep your job secure. Number 7 was a huge thing for me, something I had never anticipated with my kids. My 3 oldest are girls, and right now my 2 oldest are in college. My oldest is looking to become a physician's assistant, and my second daughter just started at Utah State, and she doesn't know yet what she wants to do. But they have both told me several times, in fact, they've written me little notes saying, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for going to school because you did it, and because we saw you work so hard, and you did it when you were working, and you did it with 5 kids. It gives me the confidence to know that I can do it too." And that means a lot to me. And I see my girls working so hard in school, and I'm so proud of them. And I hope that maybe it was because I was an example to them and they saw how hard I worked. So that's all I have. That's all I wanted to share. I really hope by sharing my story that maybe someone here will be inspired to go back to school and get your education. So thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. And I will turn the time to Cindy.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my story. So our Plan A's, all of the presenters, it seems like our Plan A's were about the same. We were going to get married, have kids. Life was going to be blissful. But, we had the plan. My husband was going to finish his education. Then I was going to go back to school after the kids were raised and grown. Well, when my husband was at Case Western Reserve University getting his doctorate degree, he suffered a fatal asthma attack. At the time, I was working full-time to help support the family. We didn't want to get entirely into a lot of student debt, so I was working full-time, had 3 little kids, ages 10 to 5. And so it was a really, really, really hard time because guess what? I didn't have a plan B. We didn't have a plan B. Scary. So I wasn't prepared for this life-altering event. If there's anyone who's lost a spouse, you know what I'm talking about. It's like the rug kind of gets pulled out from under you, and you have to figure out a new life, right? So here are the things that, if I had to share anything from my experience, things that I'd really want you to take to heart. The first thing was we were poor students, and we had been working so many years to put my husband through school. We had both been working really, really hard, and we had a clunker car. And so one of our goals was to save up enough money to have a down payment to buy a van that we could cart our kids around and that we could get to and from school, to and from work without having to worry about the ice. The winters in Cleveland were just freezing cold, and I could tell you some stories about tears crying when I was out in the parking lot because the car wouldn't start. Anyway, it's really bad. So we were just so happy to have this brand new car. 2 weeks later, my husband died. So I had no money, but I had a new car. So the other thing is all the documents, that you need to basically get anywhere or get Social Security or to collect on a life insurance policy, I didn't have all together. They were, scattered about. And so, in the process of trying to get things ready to file a claim with Social Security, we actually had to take a few road trips. My daughter Natalie, who is here, over here, was born in Santa Barbara when we were at UCSB, and so we got to take a road trip down there so we didn't have to wait 6 weeks for a certified birth certificate. So we're going to talk a little bit about that more, and I actually have in your handout something that I think will help you. It's actually helped me quite a bit. The third thing, so my husband was working, and I had insurance, health insurance from my work, and so we decided, oh, well, let's just, we're not going to need it, but let's just get you a life insurance policy. And the most benefit dollars that we could throw at that was for a $65,000 life insurance policy. So I did have that money, but I'm telling you, it was not enough. And then the fourth thing, when you're in kind of this emotional upheaval and you're having to reinvent yourself and rethink your life and what your new plan is going to be, people tend to, if they know, oh, she's got a little bit of money, or whatever. There are good people, but there are bad people as well. So, we're going to talk about this a little bit more too, but just be really, really careful when you start making financial decisions with any life insurance money, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, when I was starting to do research for this presentation, I found this awesome study, and look at this. Look at what this study from New York Life said. They actually surveyed 897 widows and widowers. And here's what they said. I wish we had some more life insurance on my spouse, 47%. I wish we had saved more. I wish we had detailed discussion about what might happen financially otherwise if one of the spouses passed. I wish we had a better financial plan in place, and I wish we had organized all of our important papers in one central location. Okay, so it happened to me, and look what the survey says. Okay, so these things, I hope that this never happens to any of you, because it is a really hard thing to deal with. But if it does, one of my favorite scriptures is, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. So if anything tonight, I just want you to be prepared. I want you to know what you need and the resources to help you. Okay, so this is depressing, I know. Just let's get the depressing part over, and then we can dwell on happier things. Okay, so the cost of a funeral, this is a lot of money. When my husband passed away, like I said, I had a new car. It was awesome. Like we could all go somewhere together. But the problem is I did not have this kind of money to even bury my husband. So what I think where I failed is we never had a discussion about, what if one of us passes? What if one of us dies? Like, shouldn't we have some money set aside for that? I mean, when you're young, you'd think you're never going to die. In fact, 2 weeks before, when we were sitting in front of the car salesman, and the car salesman says, "Oh, we have this product. It's awesome. It costs you a little bit more, but guess what? If one of you dies, then we'll pay the car will be paid off." And we're like, "Oh no, we don't need that." So you just never think it's going to happen to you. So I'm just, the cost of a funeral. Okay, so put that in your mind. It's going to be about $84 to $10,000. So the thing that I found, okay, remember, no money, had a new car, no money. My husband's last paycheck, I had a paycheck coming, so I had just a little bit of money. But the problem was with his paycheck, they wouldn't give it to me because he had passed. And so that required an extra legal step that was not fun. But anyway, you need to be prepared for, and Sheila talked a little bit about this as well, to have some, 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 3 months. It's great to have that little cushion in case you have an emergency. And so just please have some money set aside. In my husband's case, because he died at home of, an asthma-related illness, they still had to do an autopsy. And when that happens, it delays the death certificate from being issued. And you can't really get your insurance proceeds unless you have a death certificate. So you need to think these things through. I mean, you just never know. So be prepared to have 6 to 8 weeks of money set aside so that you have something. If you know you have an insurance policy, that's great, but there's going to be a gap. All right. You may have other expenses during this time as well. You just don't, you don't know. All right. So let's talk a little bit about life insurance. So in your packets, there's a really, really good some information on not only life insurance, but different types of life insurance. The thing that I really want to make sure that you understand is that if you, and Genevieve had those cute little pictures, right? So if you have a house, if you have kids, if you have a lot of debt, if you, you need to analyze your spending habits and your, what your expenses are so that you know how much insurance you really need. Now, your husband may have life insurance, but is it gonna be enough, right? If you have a house, if you have kids to put through college, all these things you should consider. And there are different types of life insurance products. And I don't want to get into details of those products, but you just really want to make sure you know what you're doing when you purchase a policy and that policy is going to be adequate. The other thing that I want to make sure that we understand, make sure that you're the beneficiary on the policy, because if there's a policy and something happens and you're not the beneficiary, then, you've got a problem. Then, again, I talked a little bit about purchasing life insurance. There are some life insurance products like whole life insurance, cash value, surrender, things like that, where the person selling you that product is going to end up with a lot of commissions. So make sure that you are going to get a good policy for the lowest cost. Right now, I have 2 insurance policies, term life insurance policies. I'm worth more dead than alive, and that's okay. But the reason why I got a new term life insurance policy is that one is going to lapse probably in about the next 3 years. And so I started a new policy before I turned a certain magical age so that I'd be covered for the next 20 years. Okay, so there are things that you can do, and it's very low cost. So my kids will really be well off when I die, if I die before the age of 75. So anyway, okay. The other thing Janice kind of alluded to, you know what? Find out what benefits your spouse has at work. He may be enrolled in a group life insurance policy. There may be some other benefits that you don't know about. Ask questions. Most companies have HR people that will really assist you and help you to know what benefits are available to you. Okay, really quick. Do not spend a dime of insurance proceeds unless you have a solid financial plan in place for your future. Now, you can spend a little bit if you need to cover funeral expenses, but please have a plan in place first so you know where your money needs to go. Find somebody that is a trusted advisor, get recommendations from family, friends. Find somebody that can help you. And remember, when these things happen, you are so stressed out and you just have so much on your mind. You really need to find somebody that has your best interests in mind. Okay, so Social Security, there are some benefits, and I'm almost done here, I promise. Go to ssa.gov, and you can find out more about lump sum death benefits. Not a whole lot of money there. Survivor benefits and benefits for children. Great things. Okay, here's the thing, really quick. Your binder. Find this red piece of paper. Look on the back of that paper. It tells you what you need to have in your binder. This has every important document in my life in here. It has insurance policies, it has birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, everything in case somebody needs to get to something. Natalie, do you know where this is? Natalie knows where this is in my house. Okay, so one thing to do, get started on your binder, have it all together. Okay, so really quick, just stay involved, be involved in your kids' lives, be involved in the community, keep your skills up if you have an education. In my situation, I ended up going back to school and getting a master's degree as well. And so please talk with your spouse, have a financial plan. If you don't have an education, that needs to be part of that financial plan. It is a plan. And thank you for your time, and I hope that some of this information will be useful to you.
Genevieve would like you all to add trust onto your list of documents that should be in your binder. These ladies are my heroes, and we really appreciate the time you spent with us tonight. I'm just going to take a few more minutes on just a couple more items. I think the last session went over, so I can take just a few more minutes. I haven't shared my story yet. My story, I gave you the beginning part when I was in 9th grade. I feel very blessed that that happened. Oh, Sheila made it without crying. I can remember the day I was working part-time, but I received a phone call from my husband's work that they put him in an ambulance and sent him to the hospital because he'd passed out, kind of blacked out at work. A couple weeks later, they called and said, he's laying under his desk, he's blacked out at work, what do you want us to do? That was the beginning of severe migraine headaches, years and years of severe migraine headaches, which led to years of kidney stones, 5 to 10 kidney stones a month. And he became debilitated, depressed, and could not work. And I had to step up and step into a position where I was full-time and support our family. He stays home with our 2 kids, and we've done a role reversal. Again, not my plan A. But I love what I do, and I love the fact that I'm able to do it. And I feel so blessed to have had parents who pushed me to get an education. My dad, when I went to get married, he said, she graduates first. So you can graduate, but she graduates first. And that has proven to be beneficial in our life. So I just want to share that with you. Everything that we've talked about tonight, it's happy. I have a happy ending. We all have happy endings. We've been through some hard times, but we have, I guess they're not endings yet, but we have happy journeys, and hopefully we have happy endings. So hopefully, as I said in the beginning, we want to inspire you to be involved, to be informed, and to be able to take responsibility for your own finances. I was going to cover budgets and taxes. I liked throwing this in for the humor here, but what if the family budget was handled like the federal budget? So federal government has till September 30th to balance the budget. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know about the rest of you, but how How do you do a financial budget? Each of you on the handout, the front page is actually these 5 steps to doing a financial plan. Financial planning, budgeting is something that we could spend hours and hours on. I don't know, how many of you are familiar with Dave Ramsey? So fantastic. I encourage you to go read Dave Ramsey's book. There's a class, the Dave Ramsey class, that's called Financial Peace University. It's taught by many different people in the community. Squire actually sponsors a class. The class itself is free. They do have you purchase the materials for the class. And I'm not sure exactly what the cost on that is, but it's minimal. Squire has a booth that we're actually sharing with the accounting department here at UVU because we believe in accounting degrees. And if you go out there, we have some information on Financial Peace University classes that we have coming up. And we will be going over more budgeting type things in this free class that we've been passing around tonight. But I just wanted to give you these here. First, start by setting a goal. You know, when I approach budgeting, that's boring. If I can have a goal, what is that goal? We want to be able to pay our house off. We want to be able to go on a vacation. We want to get out of debt. What is your goal? So ask yourself what you would like to be different in your financial world a year from now, and begin with that goal in mind. Create a plan. If you don't create a plan, then your money will control you. So start with that plan. Identify your monthly income and expenses. What I find that is so interesting is so many of us don't ever even write this down. And when you start writing it down, it's shocking, right? My family thinks that I beat them every month because I sit down and I say, this is how much we spent on going out this month, going out to eat. We're not going to do that again next month. It's amazing how fast those things add up, right? You go to Costco and you walk out of there and there's nothing in your cart, but it was $500. That happens in our daily lives. So keep track. The number one thing you can do in your budgeting is start keeping track of it. And then compare that to your plan, distinguish your needs and your wants, and then actually track it and see how you're doing, and then reevaluate that plan each month. The other part I wanted to talk about, see, I got the boring subjects, taxes and budgeting. Taxes. If you leave here tonight with one thing about taxes, what I want you to leave with is that you need to care about your own taxes. As I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I haven't met the wives of the majority of my clients. And several of my clients' wives, the first time I meet them is when they call me to tell me they need a copy of the last 5 years' returns because they're getting divorced and they've never even seen the return. Please, please, please care about your own tax return. The reason why, your signature, okay? In the days of e-filing, you can sign one page without looking at the entire return, but your signature indicates that you accept responsibility for that tax return. There is something that's called innocent spouse relief that I have down here at the bottom. And in order to qualify for innocent spouse relief, it's that you should have had actual knowledge or you had reason to know. So if you tell the IRS agent, well, I just signed it without looking at it, they're not going to grant you innocent spouse relief. So if you're signing a tax return, you need to look at the numbers and make sure they make sense to you. I had a situation where a lady that I live near came in. She'd been married for about 20 years, and suddenly the marriage was over. And suddenly the IRS is on her doorstep. He's taken out bankruptcy, and he's not filed tax returns for 17 years. And she said, well, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. And there's nothing. There's no copies of these tax returns anyway. And we went and we tried to get innocent spouse relief, and we just were not able to because the IRS said she should have known that a tax return was due every year, and she should have been filing or signing that return and keeping a copy of that return. So please keep track of those returns, sign your returns. Again, even if you're single and you're using a CPA, don't just come into our office and sign it without looking at it. Look at it, make sure it makes sense, make sure the numbers work for you. Because although I'm signing your return, you're also signing your return, and you're taking equal responsibility on your tax return. So I just wanted to show you a couple things. This is a 1040. Everybody is required to file some form of a 1040. The beginning part up here is all of the information about your name, your spouse's name, if you're single, married, filing joint, your children. So check this, make sure it's all correct. This is right below that information. This is the part to spend most of your time on. This is your income. Right here is where you would expect to see your W-2s. Below you're going to see your interest, dividends, if you have business income, If you guys have IRAs, pensions, this is the income section. And that's the part it's important for you to take the time to understand. The last part, this is the second page of the 1040, is the payment section. So right up here, line 63, it's not working. That's where the total tax is going to be. That's how much you owe in tax. The payments then subtract off of that tax. And at the end, it will tell you if you're getting a refund or if you still owe money. A lot of times people jump right to that refund number and they don't look at the rest of the return, right? And then this down here is where you're going to sign. So make sure you're looking at that return. I obviously could spend hours going through returns. I just want to make sure you have seen one and know what that looks like and what you should be paying attention to. Thank you again for coming.